Welcome into Fantasy Victory Now, Week 1 of the NFL season. Your Week 1 rankings are posted at fantasyvictory.com, and you can find them right under this video. And to make your start and sit decisions, just use Charge's handy rankings.
I highly recommend you use my rankings. We update them throughout the week, by the way, which we should note. And so, yeah, absolutely, fantasyvictory.com. Always get questions, who should I start? And then I always tell people, well, go to Fantasy Victory. They're right there.
Let's talk about Wes Welker, a guy whose position has changed quite a bit.
Let's talk about Wes Welker. Now, I think everybody's largely already broken down the whole bit on who you want to pick up, Cody Latimer, Andre Caldwell. But I think the more intriguing issue on Wes Welker right now, Mike, is that there's a real chance that the right answer in hindsight will have been to just drop Wes Welker right now. Let's talk through the scenario where that ends up making sense. Number one, he's not going to play for 4 weeks because he's suspended. Then the team's got a week 5 bye. Now you're out until week 6. Does Wes Welker hit the ground running in week 6? Is he ready to go? Is he going to just turn into the full-time starter? What if Cody Latimer, their second-round pick, looks great? Keep in mind, Wes Welker's in a contract year. He's not even on the team next year. They drafted Cody Latimer to be his replacement. So what if Latimer looks great? Does Wes Welker even keep that job? So there's all that. Plus, Wes Welker's had 3 concussions in 9 months. So what happens if he gets another one? Arbitrarily, let's say he gets a concussion week 10. It could be earlier. Well, okay, now we're looking at what is only, maybe a 4-week season for Wes Welker. So, well, you can't really drop Wes Welker. There's a real chance that looking back, when this season's over, you're going to end up saying to yourself, darn it, as it turned out, I should have just dropped Wes Welker and not been holding a roster spot for him.
And Andre Caldwell, a guy that fits into Peyton Manning's trust system. He's big on trust with guys like Jacob Tamme in the past, just safety valves that he knows he can go to.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, a guy we haven't seen in a while, but he looked pretty good on Hard Knocks. So what are we looking for Julio in Week 1?
And it wasn't just Hard Knocks, Mike. I mean, they looked good in their third preseason game, the old tune-up game for the regular season. And that game, he had a long touchdown in which he broke 2 tackles and then sprinted away from the defense. So the foot injury looks fine. And so I think Julio Jones goes back to being about where we had him last year, which is easily a top 10 wide receiver and maybe even higher.
No one wants to start the season 0-1, but what happens if you're hitting the panic button after losing Week 1?
I think there's a lot of reason to panic after Week 1. Most people are like, no, do not panic after Week 1. You loved your guys. Don't give up so early. I think you get your first really good read on your players in Week 1, and then you evaluate them all individually and say, all right, let's take the Packer game, which we expect to be difficult, for example, Mike. In the Packer game, many of my Packers are probably going to underperform. I'm not going to panic about that. But if there's an easy matchup and a guy doesn't perform, if hypothetically C.J. Spiller once again doesn't get any goal line use and he only gets 8 touches and Fred Jackson's the workhorse as one hypothetical, then I'm reading into that. People who panicked after Week 1 spent a bunch of their free agent money on Julius Thomas after Week 1 when he blew up. Turned out to be a great move.
Turned out to be a great investment.
Absolutely. So I think there's a lot you can read into Week 1, and I do say that the people who just blindly say, well, I'm following my draft no matter what. I don't care what happened in Week 1. I think they're making a mistake. I think you should panic a little bit.
Well, there you have it. Moderate amount of panic, depending on what happens in Week 1. Make sure to check those rankings at fantasyvictory.com and follow us on Twitter at fantasyvictory and at Paul Charchian.